The Dakota Territory of the 1880s occupied a peculiar space in the American psyche. It was a land of quiet, grinding reality, a place where the initial fevered dream of the Black Hills gold rush had long since curdled into a dusty, sprawling landscape of abandoned claims and modest, struggling settlements clinging precariously to the promised but often delayed arrival of the transcontinental railroad. It was a time of immense waiting, where the grand narratives of the West had given way to the slow, monotonous beat of economic persistence. It is in this setting of faded hope and persistent dust that we find our key artifact, a simple, heavy oak roll-top desk. The desk was not the property of a famous governor or a notorious outlaw. It belonged to the regional auditor of the now-defunct Dakota Western Freight Company, housed for decades in a small clapboard railway office in the unincorporated settlement of Summit Creek. The desk itself was a monument to historical anonymity. Built of dense, dark oak, its surfaces were scarred by the persistent friction of decades, the pressure marks of ledger books, the erosion caused by countless elbow rests, and the subtle, permanent stain left by a leaking oil lamp. It was sold at auction in 1965 as Lot 27, surplus office furniture, and eventually found its way into the basement archives of a regional museum, valued only for its solid construction and negligible historical interest. The title, The Desk of Disappointment, suited it well. It was a place where accounts were endlessly balanced, where profits failed to materialize, and where the daily tally of freight often confirmed the quiet stagnation of the territory. It embodied the profound letdown that followed the Civil War and the fleeting promises of Western fortune. It was during a routine, profoundly boring conservation effort, the slow, meticulous cleaning and waxing of museum furniture, undertaken primarily during the quiet, long winter months, that the anomaly was discovered. The conservator, attempting to address a persistent, rattling sound within the desk's structure, decided to fully dismantle the central pedestal drawer assembly. Deep within the right pedestal, nestled beneath a false bottom that was only a quarter-inch thick and secured with tiny antique brass screws meticulously camouflaged with oak putty, lay a shallow, secret compartment. This compartment was not designed for quick access or security against theft. It was a space designed for permanent, silent concealment. The air inside, sealed for over 80 years, carried the faint, sharp scent of dried varnish and aging paper. Inside this pocket was a single folded artifact, a sheet of paper. The paper was not the heavy, acid-free parchment of official documents, nor the fine vellum of a gentleman's diary. It was a sheet of common, vertically ruled ledger paper, the ubiquitous currency of 1880s commerce. The paper was thin, slightly brittle, and stained along the folds, clearly torn from a standard large accounting book. The rulings, typically used to track debits and credits, now served as an incongruous yet precise grid. Upon this ledger paper, rendered in thin, dry graphite lines, was a map. The sheer contradiction was the map's most compelling feature. The medium was mundane finance, but the content was esoteric geography. It was a map of a specific, recognizable stretch of the Black Hills, the very mountains that had briefly promised unlimited wealth, but it was utterly useless for conventional navigation. Dr. Miles Thorne, our recurring scholarly figure, now focused on late 19th century economic cartography, brought in to analyze the strange artifact, immediately noted the deviations from established survey practices. Non-standard bearings. The map contained no compass roses, no magnetic north reference points, and no calculated degrees of latitude or longitude, which would have been standard for a professional surveyor. Temporal markers. Instead of conventional cartographic data, the map was covered in notations that referenced time and light. Phrases like shadow falls at 3:15 p.m., sun at zenith plus 1 hour, and longest shade points to the source were written in a small, controlled script along the mountain contours. Celestial symbols, interspersed among the graphite lines, were faint, highly stylized symbols representing the crescent moon and the morning star, symbols of celestial guidance, entirely out of place on a pragmatic Western map. The most crucial recurring notation was the reference to the navigator's shadow. This phrase was written near the center of the map, adjacent to an isolated, prominent geological feature labeled only with a single looping symbol that resembled an inverted anchor. The map did not delineate rivers, trails, or claims. It delineated temporal events. It was a map that required a specific known time and specific atmospheric conditions to be read correctly. It was a map where light, not magnetism, served as the guide. The detailed analysis of the ledger paper itself revealed further subtleties. The vertical ruling was marked for gold shipments and assay values, but the accompanying columns were blank, suggesting the sheet was taken from a fresh page before the disappointments of the territory could be logged. The paper was clean, save for the precise graphite lines, emphasizing the deliberate nature of the drawing. Dr. Thorne spent weeks in the hushed environment of the archive, slowly piecing together the geographical puzzle. He confirmed that the mapped area corresponded to a secluded, geologically unique section of the Black Hills that had been the subject of early, unverified rumors of significant pre-gold rush treasure caches, speculation often linked to the chaotic movement of specie during the Civil War. The Desk of Disappointment, this monument to mundane failure, had silently held a profound secret, the evidence of a quest that transcended the normal ambitions of the gold rush. The man who sat at this desk, the quiet custodian, must have possessed an understanding of cartography, trigonometry, and perhaps the need for a secret that could not be entrusted to conventional paper or conventional methods of measurement. The presence of the map, drawn on a sheet meant to record economic loss, signaled a deeper, unrecorded truth about the financial history of the region. The map itself was a contradiction, a highly sophisticated, coded document drawn on the cheapest, most disposable medium. Its very existence beneath the desk of a failed auditor was a powerful, silent commentary on the true nature of wealth and secrecy in the tumultuous American West. The mystery now lay entirely within the hands of its unseen creator. Who was the shadow navigator who created this code of light and time, and what immense secret did he risk his life to conceal within the folds of a simple railway ledger? The methodical search for the answer begins by tracing the anonymous existence of the man who occupied the Desk of Disappointment.
The revelation of the coded map, a highly specialized geographical document drawn on the most disposable of financial paper, shifted Dr. Miles Thorne's focus from the forgotten desk to the forgotten man who sat behind it. The Desk of Disappointment was once the station of Samuel Pierce, the regional auditor for the Dakota Western Freight Company from 1878 until the company's quiet collapse in 1895. Pierce, unlike the flamboyant prospectors and notorious figures of the era, was an embodiment of the West's silent bureaucracy, a man whose existence was defined by predictable routine and numerical precision. Archival research into Pierce's obscure life painted a picture of a man meticulously trained to observe what others ignored. Before his career as an auditor, Samuel Pierce served briefly as a commissioned surveyor and topographical engineer for the Union Army during the latter stages of the Civil War. His military career was cut short by a severe, non-combat injury, a carriage accident during a transport run, which left him with a noticeable limp and a profound aversion to public life and physical risk. This background provided the essential link: the military training in applied geometry and the personal necessity for anonymity and physical obscurity. Pierce was, therefore, not a treasure hunter, but a quiet custodian. The custodial mission. The most compelling clue regarding Pierce's true mission lay in the financial context of the post-Civil War West. The Black Hills gold rush had brought a flood of genuine gold, but the years immediately following the war were also marked by immense, chaotic flows of unregistered specie, funds belonging to demobilized military units, secret government reserves, or even immense private fortunes being relocated away from the inflationary currency of the East. Dr. Thorne theorized that the gold Pierce was mapping was not gold he sought to claim, but gold he sought to guard. It may have been a legitimate, though entirely unauthorized, Union contingency fund secured during the hasty demobilization, or even valuable specie entrusted to him by a dying superior, intended to be used for a public good that never materialized. Whatever its origin, the gold needed to be removed from the volatile financial system of the 1870s and concealed in a physical vault that could not be tracked through bank ledgers or military inventories. The Railway Office provided the perfect cover for this custodial mission: access and authority. As a freight auditor, Pierce had legitimate access to obscure railway lines, forgotten spur tracks, and remote supply depots in the rugged terrain of the Black Hills, the very places a conventional treasure hunter could not easily reach. Anonymity. The role of the auditor was inherently mundane, attracting zero public interest. He was simply balancing books, a figure designed to be overlooked. His quiet precision was his ultimate camouflage against the loud, reckless chaos of the surrounding gold fever. Intellectual camouflage. His engineering training was disguised by his accounting role. He was mapping coordinates, but telling everyone he was logging lumber shipments. Samuel Pierce lived his entire adult life in this state of purposeful banality, meticulously balancing the books while silently guarding a colossal, destabilizing secret. The desk of disappointment became his monument to duty, a place where the weight of the nation's financial and moral chaos was contained within the predictable rhythm of daily paperwork. The Navigator's shadow, the genius of the code. The true genius of Samuel Pierce lay in the temporal cipher he designed. The map was not drawn using a magnetic compass, because in a world defined by theft and betrayal, a compass could be stolen and its bearings could be recorded and copied. Pierce understood that the only guide that was universal, non-reproducible, and non-stealable was the Earth's relationship with the Sun. The Navigator's shadow cipher relied on sophisticated spherical geometry, converting time into angle and shadow length into distance. The universal benchmark. Pierce chose a widely distributed, easily identifiable, yet structurally unique object common to the region, likely a specific type of limestone survey benchmark used by early government surveyors, identifiable by its precise height and unique mineral composition. Angle of the shadow. The time marker, such as shadow falls at 3:15 p.m., was not random. It specified the solar angle, azimuth, at that precise moment on a specific date, which Dr. Thorne would later calculate based on the map's inferred geometry. This angle gave the direction, like a compass bearing. Length of the shadow that the benchmark cast at that specified angle provided the precise distance to the next marker, or ultimately the final vault location. The map, therefore, was not a static drawing, it was a temporal calculation. To read it, one needed Pierce's detailed geographical and astronomical data, which he had, crucially, not written on the map. He carried that data entirely in his disciplined mind. Any thief finding the map would see only cryptic symbols and confusing time references, useless without the geometric key. The process Pierce undertook to chart this temporal map spanned years. He did not engage in frantic digging. He spent his weekends and holidays in a slow, precise process of observation and calculation,
setting up specialized equipment, likely a high-precision transit meticulously calibrated, recording solar angles and logging shadow lengths onto his graph paper. This was a lonely, repetitive, and profoundly unexciting labor, the perfect activity for a man seeking to appear ordinary. He was a silent surveyor, charting the Earth using the relentless, quiet physics of the sun. The ledger paper's final purpose. The use of ledger paper was the final, elegant touch of Pierce's camouflage. The vertical rulings of the paper served two functions. Mathematical grid. They provided an immediate, unchallengeable grid for his geometric calculations, allowing him to quickly plot precise points without carrying sensitive official survey paper. Intellectual banality. If the map had been discovered, anyone would have dismissed it as the bored doodles of an auditor practicing trigonometry or daydreaming on office stationery, an explanation so mundane it would extinguish any curiosity. Samuel Pierce lived out his entire adult life in this state of purposeful banality, meticulously balancing the books while silently guarding a colossal, destabilizing secret. The desk of disappointment became his monument to duty, a place where the weight of the nation's financial and moral chaos was contained within the predictable rhythm of daily paperwork. The next step in the investigation is the meticulous, scholarly effort to reverse engineer Pierce's celestial trigonometry, converting the shadows and time into a tangible geographical destination. The final chapter must determine if the code of light survived the ultimate challenge, the passage of time. The revelation of Samuel Pierce's true identity, the unsung cartographer, and the nature of his cipher, the reliance on the Navigator's shadow, brought Dr. Miles Thorne to the final intellectual impasse. The map drawn on the ledger paper was a perfect puzzle. It contained all the information needed to find the hidden gold, yet without the key, the precise date of the solar observation, and the specific coordinates of the benchmark stone used to cast the shadow, it remained useless. The difficulty lay in the temporal nature of the cipher. Unlike a fixed cipher, like Morse code, a temporal cipher changes every second of every day. To convert Pierce's cryptic notation, shadow falls at 3:15 p.m., into a usable magnetic bearing, Dr. Thorne needed to know the Earth's exact tilt and rotation relative to the Black Hills on the day Pierce drew the line. This required moving his research from the dust of the archives to the quiet, powerful realm of computational astronomy. The reverse engineering of time. Dr. Thorne initiated a specialized project utilizing historical meteorological data and GIS, Geographic Information System, software to retrocalculate the solar geometry of the 1880s Dakota Territory. This process was a slow, deliberate act of scholarly undoing, perfectly suited to the meditative pace of the narrative. Establishing the geometric grid. Thorne first overlaid the traced graphite lines of Pierce's map onto a modern, precise topographical map of the Black Hills. He had a set of coordinates, but they were still defined by the coded angles. Hypothesizing the benchmark. Assuming Pierce was a disciplined military engineer, Thorne hypothesized the use of an existing, durable limestone survey benchmark common to that era. He cross-referenced early U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, records against the map's starting point, narrowing down the potential benchmarks to 3 possibilities, all of precise, known height, crucial for calculating shadow length. Computational astronomy. Using specialized software, Thorne then ran hundreds of simulations, inputting the known variables, altitude, potential benchmark heights, and Pierce's time notation, 3:15 p.m. The software was instructed to search for a historical date on which the shadow length ratio, when measured from one of the 3 candidate benchmarks, perfectly resolved the coded position of the Navigator's shadow on the ledger paper. This phase of research was marked by long periods of computer processing time and the slow, rhythmic review of reams of data, confirming the profound stillness of the investigation. The solstice revelation. The breakthrough came, fittingly, not from chance, but from Pierce's quiet adherence to engineering standards. The computational analysis consistently yielded one date with the least amount of geometric error, the summer solstice, June 21st. As an engineer, Pierce would have chosen the summer solstice because it represents the most extreme and reliable solar zenith, a point of maximum light and minimum geometric ambiguity. By charting his measurements on the solstice, he ensured the code was built upon a universal, unchangeable annual constant, making the cipher durable for centuries. With the date now fixed to June 21st, 1884, the most likely year of the map's creation based on the ledger paper's batch date, the code finally yielded a single precise geographical coordinate. The location was not a winding cave or an abandoned mine shaft, the tropes of traditional treasure hunting. It pointed to a small, high-altitude plateau dominated by a vast, monolithic slab of granite bedrock located far from any established trail or water source. It was a place of deep, profound, and utterly natural obscurity. This was the compass point of silence, the code of natural obscurity. Dr. Thorne traveled to the Black Hills, approaching the site with the same slow movement that the quiet convoys once employed. The plateau itself was beautiful in its starkness, defined only by the constant wind and the vast, unending silence of the high prairie. At the exact coordinates revealed by the solstice calculation, Thorne found the limestone survey benchmark, the Navigator's Point, standing almost swallowed by the low scrub. It was chipped, weathered, and entirely anonymous. The final vault was not a vault in a traditional sense. The large granite slab that dominated the plateau showed no drill holes, no tool marks, and no evidence of human disturbance. Pierce, the unsung cartographer, had employed the code of natural obscurity. He had not built a vault, he had simply designated a place. Thorne realized that the granite itself was the security. The gold was not stored in a concrete bunker. It was likely encased in a natural crevice or fissure deep within the bedrock, sealed with local material like clay or resin, and camouflaged by the granite slab. To access it would require industrial-grade excavation and massive disruption, an operation impossible to conduct secretly in the 1880s and difficult and expensive even today. The code of natural obscurity was Pierce's final, brilliant act of custodial duty. Difficulty by banality. The location was so geologically uniform and unremarkable that no ordinary prospector would ever look twice at it. Unclaimable protection. The protection of the gold relied not on man-made walls which could be blasted, but on the immense, unyielding, non-commercial hardness of the earth itself. The granite was a natural deterrent to greed. The message of silence. The compass point of silence became Dr. Thorne's ultimate ethical proving ground. He confirmed the existence of the benchmark, the perfect geometry of the cipher, and the overwhelming probability that the secret gold cache rested deep within the granite. Yet he chose to emulate the enduring silence of Samuel Pierce. Dr. Thorne returned from the Black Hills without a shovel, without a single sample, and without a sensational headline. He understood that the true value of the map was not the gold, but the integrity of the silence surrounding the gold. Pierce's work was a testament to the idea that some resources, especially those secured in a time of national chaos, are best left untouched and unrecorded, serving as an abstract guarantee rather than a destabilizing asset. Dr. Thorne published his findings in a detailed, methodical, and deliberately complex academic journal, focusing exclusively on the spherical geometry of the temporal cipher and its significance in post-Civil War intelligence, but echoing the actions of Elias Thorne from the previous stories, he omitted the final critical coordinates. The navigator's shadow remains cast upon the silent granite. The gold is secured, protected by the most perfect camouflage, the banality of a forgotten railway auditor, and the unyielding, anonymous silence of the American West. The story concludes with the peaceful acceptance that the deepest, most compelling historical truths are often those that the quietest people choose to bury.